Hey friends, Dave here on behalf of the Hallway crew. We had such a good conversation with Erik Ringsby in our episode, and we kept the mics rolling afterwards, and we captured something else really great. So I'm putting this in here as a bonus episode with Erik's permission. So we hope you'll enjoy and be blessed by this conversation as well. I'm going to play a little music and then on with the show.
The one thing I was going to ask you, maybe I think you addressed this, but just like I remember having so I was high school English, I was in my own world, having students, different needs, like some I could see and others that I couldn't see. And it's just like, if you were to like give a workshop to just teachers, English teachers or any teachers, like where would you, like, what do we need to know? What would you tell us? Because I feel like that, I was just not trained for that, to be honest. And I still feel inadequate, actually.
Yeah. I'm struggling with this even at Dort right now, just to be honest. Because you don't have them as much, right?
Yeah.
But you can tell and you can sense when things are up. I mean, one of the things that I kind of think I want to start to employ again, too, is just kind of this check-in piece when you come in. And there are different models for it, but one just kind of asks, like, how are you doing in terms of energy? How are you doing in terms of just, kind of your optimism and where you see, just to kind of know where things are. So I feel like I need more check-ins. What I noticed too, and you're so good at this, but even at last night, we were in something that wasn't my classroom where I didn't have kind of that, I don't want to use the term positional authority, but I feel like I get a better read from students when we actually have those conversations that aren't necessarily in class. And so I don't know what the best way, in schools I can easily come up with ways because we have them
all the time.
We have them longer, right? And so, for me, we just had check-in times with our homeroom students where we met in with them, and I don't know. I'm starting to get convicted,
And sometimes you can build that into learning, right? Like I just had that with all of my 203. I met with each of them over their unit plan, and I learned a ton about students just from that meeting about a product. Right? Because they might be quieter in class, but when you're just alone with them, it's a whole different.
Yeah. The dynamic is different.
Yeah, right? The dynamic, yeah.
And the other thing I think we should do here is just when we share students, I don't know, I still think we could have somewhat of professional learning communities too. And I know we kind of have our meeting, but it's pretty jammed with lots of things. And I sometimes wonder, hey, are there people that you're concerned about, and there are tangible things we can do, whether it's just pray or reach out or do things. But I just think sometimes, I try to notice, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's hard to tell. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and I thought you were sad, but you were just really tired. You just stayed up all night.
It's true.
Or you've been, acting like things are great, and then you've learned that they're not. And so
paying attention is pretty important.
I think so.
Yeah.
So it just sometimes makes me wonder, just in terms of what do I need to? How do I make sure that I'm intentional in checking in, and how do I do that as part of? Because I talk about it,
right?
But I'm not as good at it here as I was when I had my, 15 students for 8 hours a day for 5 days a week.
That resonates with me though, because I remember feeling that sense. I was a middle school teacher for a long time too, and you just spend a lot of time with that age group of kids, and you have your antenna tuned to know kind of what's going on. We get that over time with college students, but we just see them so much less, right? You only see them 3 hours a week, and then whenever you run into them, or if they're advising and they stop by, a little bit more. But I think we have to be way more intentional, and I think you're right to say I think the team aspect is for sure going to help.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I'm even thinking of dorky things like, student staff bowling tournament. Just dorky. And I don't know if they'd let us do that, but
I think they would.
Things that we could do, I think, I feel like the spaces, I think our classrooms are super important, but I feel like being intentional. Last night, the thing was awesome. I had students sitting at my table that's in my class, and two students that I had that are now, doing their student teaching and listening to their project, their products. So I think if there's just more
Yeah.
opportunities
Informal.
for collaboration, informal,
Yeah.
kind of informal, but that are purposeful and intentional.
That's good. Yeah.
I also think, I just think, in a school of 500 teenagers, say in a high school, is we can assume that every student has at least one teacher that knows them, but that's not always true. And I sometimes wonder, how do we actually do that? And maybe to do that at a place like Dort, right? Even among our education students,
right.
is to say who is that person's go-to, and it might not be their advisor, and that's actually okay, but how do we know
Right.
who's advocating for, even in a college setting?
That's a really important
right?
piece. Like, we've got 200 some education
Yeah.
majors on this campus,
Totally.
and we've got 12 of us up and down this
Yeah.
hallway. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
hard for us
Yeah.
to sit down in a meeting and say, who knows this person?
Yeah.
Who knows this
Yeah.
person? Who's going to check in, right?
Yeah,
Like,
put all their pictures on a wall and say, write your name.
yeah.
And I think, we might be surprised that I would hope everyone would get a
Yeah.
name, but it's
Yeah.
also sometimes I wonder if we assume that.
We do. I mean, there was a name, and I won't say the student's name, that came up the other day where they're like, well, we think he's lonely. And he's not a student that I would have thought was lonely, And so I and I think just having a plethora of activities, I think of the work that Brad's done to bring students in
Oh,
who
yeah.
really didn't necessarily always feel like there was a space for them.
Yeah.
And now there is, and even the ministry that is. And so
So you think there's a gap for bowlers, is what you're saying? Brad does gaming, you do bowling and karaoke.
I'm just saying some of the things
Trivia. Let's do trivia.
when we did when we
love that.
did our panel when
Sign
we
me
just
up.
sat out there and the ed club
Yeah.
asked us questions,
Yeah.
it humanized us in a
You're so
in a-
right.
well,
in
and
a different
we
way.
learned stuff about each other.
We
Right.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe we just need more of a monthly type of
Yeah.
event that you can come if you can, that's just more communal and fun. Maybe I need to practice what I preach. We just need to have, some more fun.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
My go-to karaoke song.
Let's see.
Depends on if I'm singing with Dave.
Well, there is that.
You're going solo. You go up to the karaoke, say, put this song in. What are you asking? Something by Neil Diamond, right? It's got to be Neil
No,
Diamond.
it's not.
Oh, let me think. You've done.
I mean, lately I've been singing the Avett Brothers, "The Head Full of Doubt." That's been my go-to one that I've done.
For karaoke.
Yeah, there's a darkness upon us that's covered in light.
That's so deep. We're karaoke.
Well,
This does not surprise me. Other than
I've
not
I've never
telling
heard
you.
that song.
It bothers Becky. She's like, you need to sing songs that people like. Yeah, I sing a Death Cab song
Yeah, I
last
know,
Friday
right?
night, and Becky's like,
Yeah,
there wasn't. There was
Everybody
only
laughed.
no. There were only 5 people there.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Do you have this turned off?
No.
No.
No, this is all going on.
It's going on.
Absolutely.
Oh gosh,
Absolutely.
no.
This podcast was literally dreamed up during one of our actual hallway conversations. Our music is by Ethan Mulder. Hallway Conversations is created and produced by Matt Beamers, Abby DeGroat, and Dave Mulder. Hey, we have a favor to ask of you. Would you be willing to rate this podcast or write a review in your podcast app? Or if you found this conversation interesting or helpful, would you consider sharing it on your social media? Those things really do help podcasters out, and we would be so, so grateful. Thanks for listening, friends.